So at the beginning, in the last lecture, we introduced ourselves with the concept of communication, in which we have studied a definition of communication given by Louis A. Allen in his book Professional Management, New Concepts and Proven Practicals, in which he has focused three major things. Okay, those three major things were: one, that the purpose of communication is to create understanding. Okay, and the second thing he focuses on, that it is actually a systematic and continuous process. Okay, and the third thing that he highlighted is that it is a continuous process of telling, listening and understanding. So these are some keywords which we must remember when we talk about communication. So let's read and understand the definition of communication again. According to Louis A. Allen, communication is sum of all things. Remember, sum here is a totality of all things one person does when he wants to create understanding in the mind of another. Okay, all the things that one person does in order to create understanding. What it involves a systematic and continuous process of telling, listening and understanding. So these are the three activities which are systematically organized in a very good communication. Then in the second place, we looked into another idea which always is associated with communication, that is effective communication. And we try to understand the word effective when it appears with communication, and we have seen that we can say any communication as effective only when the communication is able to achieve the desired or set goals. Okay, the things that we have expected from communication to come out, if they are achieved by the end of doing all the things, then it is a successful or effective communication. Then at the third place, we also looked into that how that successful communication or effective communication can be achieved. Is there any particular way to do that, and how in the majority of the organizations the effective communication can be achieved? And we have seen that there are three major ways by which the communication becomes effective. The first thing is that the way we write or the way we speak, this thing make impact on the success of your communication, whether it is successful or not successful, whether it is effective or not effective. Second thing is that our behavior, the way in which we behave. Rather than speaking, people observe us and they learn from our observations. They learn from our behavior. And therefore, if you are speaking one thing and exactly in contrast that we are behaving, then there would be a problem. People would not establish a kind of trust in us. Okay, so the speaker who speaks, he must believe in himself and he must set an example by his behavior. Okay, so that is how the credibility of the speaker is established with the listeners. May it be any organization, may it be general social communication, but this thing is the most important of all. And the third thing, which is very important, is our thoughts, beliefs and philosophy. You know, every time when we speak something and we behave in a particular way, we need to observe our thoughts and the philosophy that we preach to the people. Then only people would establish a kind of credibility and trust in us. Okay, so these are the three major areas by which we can achieve effective communication. Okay, communication is not only what we write or speak, okay, but it is also what kind of trust we gain with our listeners, with our audience, and that could be established not only by speaking and writing, but by behaving. Also, in the longer terms, if you are working in particular organization or office, then we need to set an example by living or believing a kind of philosophy, and then people would trust more into us, and therefore we can communicate with the people in a better way. So these are areas which can make our communication effective or successful. Now, we have also looked into the difficulties in effective communication or successful communication. What makes communication difficult? Okay, so first of all, we have looked into how we people many times not do not know the priorities or objectives of the communication that is taking place. Second thing is that not listening, and in which we have also differentiated between listening and hearing. If we are hearing, we are doing the thing mechanically without putting that seriously into our minds, without processing that particular information. So when we listen, we must be active, we must listen to the sounds, and at the same time we must process that information actively through our brains. Then and then only it becomes effective listening. Third thing is that many times we fail to understand the communication fully, and if that is the case, that can be rectified by, or that can be corrected by asking questions. We also fail to ask questions, and if you are not understanding and if you are not asking questions, again there would be a problem, and then the communication will become failure for sure. So this is the third problem or third difficulty in communication, that if you are not understanding something, you must ask questions. But if you fail to ask and fail to understand, then communication is definitely a failure. Next thing that we looked into is that your mind is made up or preconceived ideas. If you already have some kind of prejudices in your mind regarding some topic, regarding some person who is going to speak in front of you, you would probably not listen to him or her in a proper way. So for that particular purpose, our mind must be clear and open. If we have already some preconceived notion or ideas in our mind regarding that particular topic, let us say, for example, if somebody does not like English, and if he has to attend a lecture of English, he would be always carrying the idea that English is a very difficult subject, and therefore he would probably not giving his 100% when he is learning or listening that particular subject. So in that case, what he would feel it more difficult, and therefore the communication will definitely fail. So therefore we must get rid of, we must leave, we must remove all these preconceived ideas, bad ideas, prejudices about others. If somebody has said you that the teacher of English is a very boring person, he does not teach you well, he does not communicate in a proper way, if you have that preconceived idea about that particular person in your mind, you would probably not give your 100% in order to listen to that particular teacher. Okay, so before listening, we must get rid of preconceived ideas, and our mind must be free of all, so that we can listen pure information and act accordingly. And we continued with the problems with difficulties, or difficulties with effective communication. We have seen that if the speaker does not understand others' need, then it would be a problem again. For example, uh, when we started with the last session, I referred to the story in additional English subject that is given in the passage Good Manners, in which a lady sees a boy, a scout boy, holding the flag, having the uniform, and she asks that boy whether he is the scout boy. And then the scout boy replies that he is two eggs on the toast. Okay. He makes fun of that particular lady. Why? Because he fails to understand what that lady wanted to convey. Okay, she actually does not want to ask any question, but she actually wants to praise that student or the scout boy. Okay, so if the boy understands the need of that particular lady, that she does not want to ask question, but actually she is praising him, then this miscommunication would not have taken place. So in order to understand communication in a proper way or make it effective, we need to understand the needs of others. I mean, a speaker must understand the needs of the listener, and the listener also must actively listen and cooperate with the speaker in order to make that communication happen. Then we also seen that not thinking clearly or jumping directly to the conclusion is one of the problems. In longer lectures, people also have this problem that they do not listen to the speaker in a complete way and they directly jump to the conclusions. Their mind is revolting all the time. Their mind says something and they argue with that particular speaker within their mind. Therefore, they cannot process the information that is given by the speaker, and therefore, there would be definitely a problem in that communication. Then, this is one of the major challenges, that if the listeners or the speakers are bad mood, bad emotional shape, they probably cannot understand the communication in a better way, because their mind would be always charged with some kind of bad emotions. And if you are in a bad emotions, probably you cannot think logically. So it is always said that mad mood hampers your logic. You cannot think logically if you are in a bad emotional setup or bad emotional mind makeup. So in order to make a communication happen, you need to maintain a very good mood also. Then finally, we looked into that if the speaker or the listener or the participant in the communication fail to understand or explore new alternatives, new channels, new ways to communicate, then also there would be problems with the communication. And I also cited an example. For example, if I want to communicate with you uh, in a face to face way, and suppose there are a very few days left and I want to give you more than 10 lectures, it would be a bad kind of communication if I carry on lecturing you one after another in a very short period of time. So what would be the alternative for that? For my perspective, one good alternative would be to record the videos and put it on the YouTube so that you can listen them whenever you are free and good shape of your mood, so that you can listen and this communication would take place properly. So if you have alternatives or alternative ideas to communicate, then you may find the communication happens effectively. If we do not have this kind of alternatives, we are not creative enough to communicate the same things differently, then there would be a failure in communication. I think